I never liked the kind of parties where people wear their confidence like perfume. Thick, loud, impossible to ignore. But that night wasn't about me. It was about my wife, Claire, who'd spent weeks preparing for her company's annual celebration. She'd practiced smiles in the mirror and kept asking if the navy dress looked too formal. I told her she looked great, even though a small part of me wondered why she needed my reassurance so badly these days. The hotel ballroom glittered with chandeliers and too many people pretending to enjoy each other's success. I could smell the cocktails, expensive perfume, and fake laughter before I even reached the table with Claire's coworkers. She slipped her hand from mine the moment her boss, Daniel Price, turned around to greet us. The guy looked like every self-satisfied executive. Perfect haircut, perfect teeth, and a handshake that said I own the room. "Claire, you didn't tell me your husband was coming," he said, eyes gliding over me the way someone glances at a parking ticket. "Of course," she replied quickly, forcing a laugh. He insisted on seeing what corporate life looks like. The words stung more than they should have. I run a small construction business. It's honest work, the kind that leaves your hands scarred and your back sore. I wasn't born for suits or speeches, but I also wasn't the type to get looked down on. Still, I smiled, nodded, and let him think whatever he wanted. Daniel raised his glass toward me. "Well, cheers to hard work, huh?" I clinked glasses, but the grin on his face had something smug hidden behind it. The night dragged on with speeches and awards. Claire's laughter sounded different whenever Daniel was near. Lighter, almost practiced. He kept touching her arm when he talked. Small gestures that seemed harmless to everyone else but landed like jabs to my ribs. At one point, while people crowded the dance floor, Daniel leaned closer. "You must be proud of her," he said. "She's been the backbone of every major deal this quarter." "I am," I replied evenly. "She mentioned you run some sort of construction thing?" His tone made it sound like a hobby. "Yeah," I said. "We build things that last." He chuckled softly, swirling his drink. "That's admirable." Claire's always had a soft spot for ambitious men. There it was, clear, deliberate. The line wasn't about respect. It was about territory. I studied him for a moment, calm on the surface, fire underneath. He thought I was just another blue-collar husband tagging along, out of place among people who talk in profit margins and vacation homes. Claire returned with a drink and caught the tension. "Everything okay?" she asked, but her voice trembled slightly. "Just fine," I said. "Your boss was telling me how ambitious you are." Her smile faltered. Daniel cleared his throat, pretending to laugh it off. "Don't take it the wrong way, man. Just friendly talk." The rest of the evening blurred. I stood at the edge of the dance floor, watching Claire spin under golden light, surrounded by people who didn't know the version of her I used to love, the one who used to paint on weekends and laugh at my stupid jokes. I wondered when she stopped reaching for my hand first. When the party ended, Daniel caught me near the exit. He leaned in with the kind of arrogance that only men drunk on status carry. "You know," he said, "if you ever want to learn how this world works, maybe I could give you some pointers." I looked at him, really looked. He had no idea who I was. Not the title, not the business, not the network I'd built quietly over years. He saw a man in a plain shirt and assumed simple. I didn't correct him. I just smiled and said, "You already have." Claire stayed quiet on the ride home. The glow from the streetlights flickered across her face, highlighting the tension she tried to hide. I could tell she wanted to say something, but pride kept her lips sealed. When we pulled into the driveway, she finally exhaled. "You didn't have to be so cold with Daniel," she said softly. I turned off the engine. "Cold? You mean when he questioned what I do, or when he reminded you how ambitious you are?" She sighed. "He was just being polite. You took it personally." "Claire," I said, leaning back, "that man wasn't being polite. He was testing how far he could go in front of you, and you let him." She stared out the window, her silence louder than any argument. I didn't push further. Some truths don't need shouting. They just sit in the air until they suffocate everything. 2 days later, I received a call from one of my clients. an investor interested in expanding our commercial contracts. When I showed up to the meeting, guess who was sitting across the conference table? Daniel Price. Same smug smile, same confidence. Only this time, he wasn't holding the power he thought he had. "Ah, the construction guy," he said, standing up to shake my hand. "Didn't expect to see you here." I returned his handshake with calm certainty. "You might want to sit down, Daniel. The project you're pitching falls under my company's review. I'm the primary contractor on your firm's new site in Oak Ridge." The look on his face was worth every awkward second from that party. He blinked, confused, then tried to recover his tone. "Oh, of course. I didn't realize." "You wouldn't," I interrupted gently. "You were too busy talking about ambition." He forced a laugh, pretending nothing had changed, but his posture gave him away. For the first time, he looked small. Throughout the meeting, I stayed professional, deliberate. Every time he spoke, I countered with clear details, permits, cost estimates, zoning policies. The more I talked, the quieter he became. By the end, even his assistant avoided eye contact. When the meeting adjourned, Daniel approached me privately. "Listen, about that night, I hope there are no hard feelings." "No hard feelings," I said. "But next time you talk to a man, don't assume what he's worth just because his hands aren't soft." He nodded quickly, his voice thin. "Understood." As I left the building, I felt a calm I hadn't felt in months. Not pride, just balance. Sometimes respect doesn't need to be demanded. It needs to be demonstrated. That evening, I got home before Claire. When she walked through the door, she looked worn out. Her confidence dimmed. "How was your day?" she asked, setting down her bag. "Productive," I said. "I ran into your boss." Her eyes widened. "Daniel?" "Yeah. We had a meeting about his firm's expansion." I paused. "Turns out he reports to one of my clients." She froze, processing. "Wait, you're part of that deal?" "I am that deal," I said quietly. "He knows now." Claire looked down, shame flickering across her face. "I didn't know, James. He's my boss." You thought he mattered more than respect," I said, not cruelly but firmly. "You forgot who you married." She swallowed hard, tears building but refusing to fall. "I'm sorry." For the first time in a long time, I didn't rush to comfort her. Some apologies need to sit in silence. I poured myself a drink, leaned against the counter and said, "Don't be sorry. Just remember next time you introduce me to people who measure worth by money or titles, remind them who's actually building their foundations." That night, she came to me quietly, no makeup, no armor of confidence. "You really showed him, didn't you?" she said softly. I met her eyes. "No, I showed you." The room fell silent, but it wasn't the tense kind. It was the kind that follows truth, the kind that rebuilds something broken. For once, she reached for my hand first.